Hey, folks, welcome back to this week's episode of Getting In, a coach conversation. College coach conversation. I can say that 10 times fast. It's really hard, this job. Okay, before I get to our final segment, I want to tell you about a competition between now and May 4th. Every listener who reviews us on Apple Podcasts will be entered in a raffle to win 2 free hours of college counseling with our host, Beth Heaton. I don't know why they're not offering me up for 2 free hours. I guess Beth is more interesting. All you have to do is you can leave a review and you'll automatically be entered. Beth is great. You're going to love these 2 hours. So we're going to have a randomly selected winner and announce on May 13th. Keep an eye out for that. Review us on Apple Podcasts. 5-star reviews go a long way. Okay, we are here for the final segment, and joining me, if you're watching on our Facebook page, you can already see, is Jean Mahan. Hey, Jean, welcome to the show.
How are you, Ian? It's great to see you today.
I'm doing well. It's great to see you as well. So we are talking about getting organized today, and you are a college finance expert. I'm a college admissions expert. We work with students and parents and families every year in helping them get organized around this process, which has a lot of different pieces that are connected, a lot of different things to try and understand. So let's just say we're starting with a brand new family. It's April. Wow, it is April, heading into May. How do we want to start to talk to them about getting organized for the application process coming this fall? Where would you begin?
So I'm like an organizational nut. I feel most comfortable at one of those big box stores that has container in it. It's my dream place. But I always encourage families to set up some sort of a tool that they're comfortable with, whether that's a spreadsheet, a notebook, a whiteboard. List all the schools and the dates. What date is the admissions application? Do they accept Common App or Coalition? Do they have their own? What types of financial aid applications do they need? Just a FAFSA, or do they also need the CSS profile? Do they have a specific deadline for scholarship applications? Too many times I've talked to families who were interested in the XYZ university, were pretty sure their student would get merit, and then realized they had missed the deadline, all because they didn't have this information somewhere where they could all see it.
Yeah.
So really, really important, because one university has a deadline. It doesn't mean its next door neighbor has the same one. So you want to make sure you know all of them.
It certainly doesn't. And we were just talking with Ken in last segment about the athletic recruitment process and how that really shifts things forward a little bit. But I think it's really safe to say that there are no deadlines that you'll miss if you start in May, June, early summer, trying to get organized. You're not going to be at risk of missing something. But if you start putting this stuff together in October, then you run the risk of, running up against some deadlines that you might miss. And you don't want to be in that kind of circumstance, because schools have deadlines for a reason. They've got to stay organized. They have to stay on top of things.
Right. And if you, for example, are looking for financial aid and you miss the deadline, it could have some serious repercussions. It might mean that you don't qualify, you're not eligible at all because they've run out of money, or they might put you to the back of the bus just after they review all their continuing students too, which could mean maybe you'll get some, but it will be a much reduced package. So this is kind of I view this period right now between April and June as kind of the calm before the storm.
Okay.
So this is a great time to be going on to the different schools' websites and, checking for those forms and deadlines and what their requirements are and setting up that spreadsheet. I think probably every parent can identify with this situation where it's 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening, your kid shows up in your room and says, I need a black turtleneck for chorus, or I have a test tomorrow and I left my notes at school. This is not what you want to happen in this process. And so having all these dates available, post them in a place where everyone can see them, it'll definitely cut down on the stress and the feeling that parents sometimes have of that they're nagging their children. So this organization will cut down on all of that. And as I always say to people, if organization is not your thing, well, once this is over, you can go back to whatever was working for you before. But just for this,
got to be organized now.
Right. Just now, just this 1 year period.
That's
and then you could go back to your other methods of staying or not staying organized.
That's right. It's a great reminder that, some of the stuff like the black turtleneck or the notes, like these are one-time things, and it's, you can find a way to fake it. But when you're talking about significant financial aid dollars, or you're talking about missing an application to a school, these are really, it happens one time. And so you don't want to be in a position where you're missing those deadlines. Now, for me, Gene, I've got a fair number of juniors that I'm working with.
Mhm.
They're not really paying any attention to me right now. They are in AP study mode. They are pushing to the end of the year, and that's perfectly fine. I'm happy to take a step back and let them finish school, because that's a priority for me and for them as they're getting ready for their applications in the fall. But I think parents can sometimes be a little bit anxious to want to get things going.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
you had suggested to me that students can use the parents, they can almost assign them tasks to get things going here. And parents can find a way to sort of, I don't know, like bridge that gap between where a student starts researching colleges, then they go radio silent because they're focused on academics, and then they're starting to execute the work.
Yeah.
How would you think about the interplay between students and parents being team members of a project here and getting organized?
So I view parents as the project managers. I assign them that title for this process.
Mhm.
And it's a great way for parents to stay involved, but not to be involved in things that they shouldn't be, like filling out the application or writing the essay. But this is a way they can be involved and really help their students stay on track. So they're
Yeah.
not missing deadlines. So they're not feeling like, oh my gosh, I have 4 applications due tomorrow and I'm only half done. So, parents having done the research, and if you can involve your student, that's great, but this is a busy time of year, and with schooling so interrupted this year, it just adds another layer of complexity to an already complex process. So, even if parents want to stay busy and start doing this research, setting up whatever tool it is you plan to use, that way you can say to your student, okay, we want to get some target dates down for the summer. We want to have maybe a couple of essays ready, at least in their final draft form by the end of the summer. We want to have the Common App almost completed before you return to school, because it would be like having one more class when school starts to be getting all this done. In addition to your AP classes, maybe you're in a club or you're in sports or whatever other extracurricular activities you have. So really, really using this as the parent can really take hold of this, get the kids set up for success, really, and for lessening the stress around the process. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, when you think about a good project manager, that's somebody that helps to set up the circumstances for other people to execute tasks and be successful.
Right.
And if you've got a project manager that's doing everything, they're not doing their job, right? The
Right.
responsibility is to empower other people to engage with that process. And so I love that metaphor for this particular process. I also think that there really are things that students don't need to be doing. They don't need to be looking up deadlines. Like, they certainly can, and I'm happy for them to do so. They don't need to look up deadlines. They don't have to look up when the financial aid deadlines are, what the scholarships are. But as a project managing parent, you can say, your job is to research this college. Your job is to look into this academic program. There are some things that I think students have to be really close to. Just like you might have a realtor that goes out and look at homes for you, but ultimately deciding to buy it is something where you've got to walk through and say, is this a place that I want to live? No realtor can make that final decision for you.
Exactly.
And gathering and using that information, I think, really is close to the students.
Right.
We've talked a lot internally about research just over the last few days. I think because a lot of seniors are still trying to make their decision.
Right.
On our side, on the admission side, there's a lot of really subjective stuff. How strong is this program or that program? How much do my teachers connect with me? Like, it really depends on the person who's doing the research to interpret the data. On the finance side, to what extent is there just hard answers to the research questions versus things that do have that subjective feel to them? How do you think about approaching research on the finance side with parents and students?
So in an ideal world, which we really don't live in, parents and students would be thinking about this prior to, by using tools like net price calculators to determine if they're eligible for financial aid.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the calls I get, especially in the next week and a half, are really people that are sort of panicking, that haven't really thought about it, thought their students would be eligible for more financial aid than they were, or would get a merit scholarship. So just get yourself armed with the information before.
Yeah.
Think about what you're willing to pay. And if we have some of our listeners are 9th or 10th grade parents, start talking to your students about that. What mom and dad can afford to pay, how much we should be borrowing, what is your expected income post-graduation so that you have those metrics, then it might make it easier. And I think the biggest thing I said to my own children, and I recommend to other kids, only apply to schools where you can actually see yourself. Because what
Mhm.
seems to happen so often is your reach or challenge school, you're not likely to get any merit money from them, but your no problem school comes back with 20 or $30,000, making it a very affordable option. And then the student says, you know what? I don't even want to go to that school. I had no interest in that in the first place. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, and I've had a ton of conversations in April like that. So, it really will help if price is a consideration, that if all schools being equal, maybe you can choose the one that's based on who gave you the most money.
I'm glad you said it, Gene, so I didn't have to, because I feel like I say this all the time. But like yeah, there's no reason to apply to colleges that you're not going to seriously consider attending.
Mhm.
Like when we talk about a school being a safety school, we don't even like safety here at College Coach. We talk about them as being no problem to get into.
Right.
The idea isn't that this is a worse school. It's that you have done the work such that you are in a
Yes.
position where this school is really likely to accept you. That's good. That's a good thing. And it also means on the finance side, that school might be much more generous when they're
Mhm.
making offers of recruitment scholarships to you.
For
These are
sure.
good things. And so I think that that's a great place to leave it, is that, you really have to be in a position where you are thinking about the total outcome of this process. You want to
Mhm.
set yourself up for success, but you want to also anticipate what might be coming down the pike and how
Right.
you're going to react given all the information that you have at the end of the day. Any
Mhm.
final tips? You've got something for us for 15 seconds?
15 seconds. Just get started now, you parents of 11th graders, and really get organized, because you've already seen the influx of mail both through your front door and email. And help your child to be able to kind of go through that and determine what's a marketing thing and what's somebody who really wants you.
That's
So
right. That's right. Every college is going to say they want you, but who really
mhm.
wants you? And who do you
Who
really
loves
want?
you?
Like
Yeah.
you're in charge here.
Yes,
Dean,
exactly.
I love it. Thank you so much for
You're
coming on the show.
welcome. Thanks
Uh,
for having me.
of course, we're going to be back next week. Sally's going to take the hosting chair. We're going to start the med school series. Maybe we're continuing the med school series. Talk about the pre-med application options for high school students. We'll be talking about what to do after you've deposited and all that hard work is over, and then work study, student employment, and internships, and how that dovetails with college finance. So we look forward to seeing you here again next week. It'll be the month of May. Enjoy. Have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.